All right, finally, we are live, Buff Nation. Can a quarterback duo work this year? Can Caden Salter and Julian Lewis lead Colorado and coach Prime to glory this year? This might be kind of unconventional, but let's say Julian Lewis's arm talent, his poise, his growth make it undeniable that he needs to be on the field. How's this thing gonna work? It's let's play a little game. So if we are to roll with this two quarterback system, how would you kind of see the playing time going? Which quarterback is in for what specific situations? I thought that this would be cool to kind of go through, take a look at the 2006 Florida Gators. Hopefully, the majority of you guys were alive when this was going on. Hey, but if you're not, if you weren't around for Tim Tebow's freshman year at Florida with Chris Leak, Urban Meyer, it's time to learn some college football history. We're gonna do that together. So let's uh let's go ahead and get started. Y'all be sure to smash that like, subscribe. What's going on, Eric? What's going on, Towner Tree? And this is gonna be a lot of fun. Checking out from Miami, Florida. I wish I was there right now. All right, Kodiak. Oh yeah, Hall of Fame games going on today. Don't care. All right, let's get into stuff that I do care about, which is how the heck are the Buffaloes going to do this two quarterback system thing? So let's I just straight up asked Chat GPT if they could break this down for me, and also taking a look at how Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning were used. I didn't really find that scenario to be too relevant to what's going on. Maybe you guys disagree. Of course, let me know in the comments, but we're going to point out some things here with the Florida Gators in 2006. Now, if you guys need some context, Chris Leak was there, starter for the previous few years, I believe. And then in 2006, big national title expectations. Tim Tebow ended up saying, you know what, forget Alabama. I'm going to go to Florida. And yeah, he was a star as a true freshman. Now, this is pretty interesting because Chris Leak was the senior starter, and then Tim Tebow was coming in as like that five-star guy, that next, star quarterback of college football. Does it sound familiar? Does it sound familiar? We have a senior quarterback in Kaidon Salter coming in here, and we also have Julian Lewis being a star phenom quarterback whose potential is obviously through the roof. Now, this is where things differ a little bit, where Tebow was brought in mainly for short yardage, red zone, goal line packages. I mean, he was running the ball. He was surely he was doing his jump pass, all those different things, but making sure that the Gators were phenomenal in the red zone when they needed short to gain situations. Tebow's role, power run focused, of course, with high efficiency passes. He did not throw a lot of passes his true freshman year. And overall, I mean, you can kind of see the stat lines here. Tim Tebow only threw 33 passes. Now, he did complete 2/3 of them, which is great. 22 of 33 for 358 yards, 5 touchdowns, and a pick. But look at this, guys. He was mainly used as a rusher, 89 rushes, 469 yards, and 8 TDs. So even as like a true freshman, he did have over 800 all-purpose yards and 13 total touchdowns. That's pretty darn good. And then, of course, Chris Leak obviously was the quarterback of the offense for 70% of the time, right? Almost 3,000 yards passing, 23-13 touchdown to interception ratio, and also had 30 rushing yards and 3 TDs on the ground. So this is where things kind of differ a bit, because Kaidon Salter is more of that dual threat quarterback, while Julian Lewis is going to be obviously more of that pocket passer. He'll be able to scramble when needed, but I don't think it would be wise to be running kind of the same run concepts that you might give Kaidon Salter. Of course, Kaidon Salter, he's very comfortable running those zone reads, RPOs where you have both a run and pass option. You can run the speed option, all those different things. You're not necessarily going to be constructing a running game plan or a passing game plan kind of based off of those concepts. It's going to be probably more similar to what we saw with Shador, a guy who can scramble, who can extend the play, who can throw on the run, but a guy that's going to be using his arm primarily to get the ball down the field and to score touchdowns. So I don't necessarily think that, let's say Julian Lewis really just start popping off. Uh, I I don't think like you see us opening up like a red zone package for him, right? Like that's not really it. You would want to see Caden Salter more in those red zone packages, right? Because it's going to be incredibly important to run the ball. It's going to be, um, yeah, you're going to have tough yardage to get there in the red zone and on the goal line. So I, I think that one thing that I feel like pretty good about is if we are doing this two quarterback system, I think Caden Salter is going to be that guy within the red zone, making sure that we're punching this thing in, without a doubt. Now, I do wonder, and I think that this would be smart as well, throughout the season. Of course, like let this be Caden Salter's thing. I think that's great. And let's say we get a comfortable lead against Delaware or Wyoming or Houston, something like that. Maybe we see Julian Lewis have, a few quarters at least with the offense to kind of see what he could do. Now, if he performs really well with that, kind of what I would see is that you might want to open up games with Caden Salter running the offense because, again, you can emphasize the run game. He can extend the play when needed, scramble, all that. But then maybe you're giving Julian Lewis a couple series, maybe at the end of the first quarter, beginning of the second quarter, just to see like how he's doing. And then you're kind of running with the guy that makes you a little bit more comfortable going into the second half. Now, there are a lot of problems with this idea when you're talking about continuity with the offense and making sure that you're not kind of killing any momentum or chemistry that can be built when you have the same quarterback. And again, if we're subbing in kind of that guy with not a lot of experience but really talented, what's different between Tebow and Chris Leak is that Tebow could, run the ball and then do these high efficiency passes when needed. That's not necessarily Julian Lewis's thing. And you might say, well, hey, maybe put Julian Lewis back there if we're needing to come back from a lead. I don't necessarily feel comfortable doing that with him as a true freshman either. You don't want to put unnecessary pressure on a quarterback. And if he's feeling like, hey, I'm only in to orchestrate this comeback on this drive, it could lead to him making some bad decisions as a young quarterback. And you don't want to kill that confidence, right? You want to handle this very, very carefully. But that's, yeah, and we've seen Caden Salter orchestrate comebacks as well, because again, he has the ability to scramble, make big time runs with his legs. I mean, he can make tons of scramble rushes for, over 20, 30, 40, 50 yards. He can make big time bomb throws down the field with his arm, 40, 50 yards. So he is a guy that can also lead a comeback. So I think kind of how I see this right now is maybe this is a little bit generous. I don't know if I could see him playing, a full 30% of the snaps or 35% of the snaps, all that. I think that likely he gets, a few series every game. That's kind of how I would see things. And maybe he ends the season with kind of, around 20% of the snaps taken. Again, we'll have to see. I don't like the idea of subbing him out, like, and switching quarterbacks on specific drives, but maybe that's what we're looking at. Ease is talking about third and long is juju time. Maybe that's something that we get creative with. Again, we haven't seen this very often, so I'm trying to figure out what might be a way to do it. But that's like the fun of this exercise, right? Is thinking about how this could be done in a way in which both of these quarterbacks are put in situations to where they excel the most. But yeah, third down passing situations. If Julian Lewis throughout fall camp just shows that he's the much more effective third down thrower, maybe you're doing that. Um, but I think like if Coach Prime comes to me and I'm the play caller, I'm Pat Shermer or Byron Leftwich, maybe he'll have some say in this, right? I would hope so as a quarterback's coach. But Coach Prime's saying, Dave, we're playing both of them. I don't care what you think about that. We're playing both of them. Make it work. I think what I would do again, start out with Kaidon Salter for a couple of series, then give Julian Lewis a couple of series, and then after that, you're going with one guy. Into the second half, when the pressure's up, I don't really want to see us going back and forth like sometimes I think Sark did with Arch Manning and Quinn Ewers. I just don't really see that point. Now, this past year in 2024, Arch ended up starting some games because Quinn Ewers was hurt. And then once Quinn Ewers was back, he was immediately taking over the starting reins. And you saw maybe a few different run packages for Arch, like on a specific third down. So maybe that's where we could see some Julian Lewis involved as well. But again, what's kind of different is that Arch and Tim Tebow were more of those dual threat guys as compared to Quinn Ewers and Chris Leak. And we kind of have the opposite situation here with Kaidon Salter being that dual threat guy. But that would be my hope is, hey, if we're going to play him, let's give him a series or two in the first half of every game. And then we ride the hot hand. If we got to do it, that's probably how I do it. You ride the same guy in the second half. And if offensive line, let's say it's breaking down, Julian's getting a lot of pressure, man, then you're just rolling with Kaidon Salter the rest of the way, man. Because again, he can get away from those hits. You don't want Julian Lewis taking a lot of hits like as a 17-year-old true freshman, man. Yeah. It's going to be interesting, but this is a little bit of a follow-up again to just what media members who are actually connected to the program are kind of like preparing us for. Like they've talked about this a lot, is that two quarterback system, it could be a thing. They're raising it as something that they're like speculating about, right? But if they're raising this question like so often or this hypothetical, kind of want to read between the lines a little bit and say, hey, maybe they've gotten kind of an indication that, Julian's not going to be on the bench this year, right? And that's kind of how I'm starting to think about this. And then, you saw the throw. I think I have it bookmarked. Give me 1 second. That Julian Lewis made today. Spectacular throw. Let's hope I bookmarked it. We'll see here. Yeah. Thanks to Reach the People, man, for putting this together. Take a look at this. One moment. But you can't deny the talent, man. Julian Lewis having all day to throw. How about that good offensive line, right? Omari Miller burning. I don't know who 13 is, man. I can't even remember. Is that John Slaughter? That's real nice, man. That was a beautiful throw. Just a beautiful throw and catch from Omari Miller. The best player on our team. Him or Jordan Seaton, right? DT 3 or 10, right? That's exactly. But Cam, you bring up a great point. A good line will make any quarterback good. And Iza's also saying Julian Lewis is the truth. If he wasn't so young, he'd be the starter hands down. Totally agree. This year is just about getting him ready to fully be that program leader for us next season. That's what this year is about. Now, I think if we are going to do this, if this is done correctly in a way in which it doesn't affect the quarterback's chemistry, their mojo, confidence, all of that, I mean, there's potential for this to be a very dangerous, duo at quarterback. It could theoretically make our offense even more dangerous than maybe what some people expect. I still feel like anybody can win the Big 12. I think the Buffs have just as good of a shot as anybody in the conference with winning this conference this year. Could a two quarterback situation complicate that? Maybe. But now that I'm kind of processing this out loud with you guys, maybe Julian Lewis is just kind of used as that spark plug. If we kind of hit a rut on, on the offensive side of the ball, we have a couple series that don't score, right? Maybe put Julian in and see what he can do. And just saying, hey, just go out for this series, see what you can do, have fun. Again, no pressure. Maybe it's something like that. Again, kind of in the middle of a game. But ultimately, I still want us to lean on Kaidon Salter, just like the 2006 Florida Gators leaned on Chris Leak, and the 2024 Texas Longhorns leaned on Quinn Ewers. Now that one, maybe that's a little bit more gray, but give him enough. Give Julian Lewis enough to really build his confidence, just like what happened with Tim Tebow. Give him some plays, just a few plays that he can execute at a very, very high level, and have those be like his bread and butter plays that we can run when we need a spark on offense. And so he can carry that momentum going into his true sophomore year when he's fully the guy. But yeah, I would say that I think if this is going to be a season in which we're winning double-digit games or being in contention for the conference title, I think it's going to be because you see Kaidon Salter playing 75% of these snaps, right? Being in consideration or being within range to break that all-purpose yardage record set by Shedeur last year at 4,089 yards, I want to say. But who knows what's going to happen? Maybe Julian Lewis, is the next 17-year-old freshman phenom quarterback, Caleb Williams, and once he takes over, there's no looking back. That would be exciting too. So y'all let me know your thoughts on this. I'm going to get out of here. Really do appreciate you guys as always. Fun show tomorrow. I believe Chico, Bird, and I are doing our show tomorrow afternoon at 1 p.m. Mountain. So be on the lookout for that. Have a wonderful evening. Go Buffs.